you watching, you may have seen some of our webinars before.
Yes.
And Helen Cahill Cobb is back.
I'm back.
She was off on maternity leave.
Yes.
And as we were saying earlier, if you want to see pictures of her baby,
You have to come in and tour. That's the way it goes. Sorry. I'm not doling them out for free.
yes, yes. And for those of you who haven't joined a webinar before, we have a whole series that we do, but once a quarter we have the get to know residents, a way to meet residents, even if you're living in Tennessee and watching. And when we do have these webinars, we record them. So you can go to our website,
knollwoodcommunity.org,
and look at past recorded webinars, whether it's meeting other residents who have been on the webinars, or if it's even seeing some of our other webinars that are more informational.
Yeah. Intro to Knollwood, financial stuff. There's all kinds of wonderful webinars. Yeah.
All right.
Let's introduce you all.
Okay. So how about Helen and I start on my right, and then you'll take over on the left.
Sounds great.
So on my, in the purple shirt is Candy Leibenguth. Next to her is Sam Corlett. And in the middle on the sofa is Jean Dewey.
Now, next to Jean in the red is his wife, Priscilla Dewey. And then on the far left, we have Dawn Robinson in the blue. So we are so grateful that these residents joined us today, and we're going to kick things off.
So why don't we start with Candy? And Candy, just tell the viewers maybe where you lived most previously to Knollwood and how long you've lived here.
Well, I'm a relatively new resident, but I will be approaching my first anniversary by the end of June. I previously lived in a lovely house that my husband and I built on the Chesapeake Bay, and we lived there about 11 years before he passed away, and I sold the house and tried to decide what to do with the rest of my life. I have family close by. I visited a lot of continuing care retirement communities in the Maryland, Virginia area, and chose Knollwood. It rapidly went to the top of my priority list, and any new place I saw had to be able to knock Knollwood out of first place, and no one ever did.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. And we did not tell her to say that.
No, we did not.
In fact, you didn't even say that in the practice run.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good, perfect thing. Sam, how about you? How long have you lived at Knollwood, and where did you live most previously?
Coming from Cape Cod just over a year and a half ago with my wife who had Alzheimer's, and I felt I needed the support, which was lovely and perfect right here. But I chose this place because number one, Washington is such a dynamic, culturally interesting, vibrant community to be in. My children are here, and I wanted a place that was not a high-rise apartment. This is just the opposite. What lovely wooded area, woods, and my end around it. Most of all, our family. I discovered that. But that's what
Secretary and Mrs. Dewey, you want to tell us where you came from and how long you've been here?
Let Priscilla start.
Well, we came into Knollwood 15 years ago, and we've been very happy here. We were living on and off in the Washington area, and we had a home, and we came in and have enjoyed all the activities.
Good.
We were only about 4 miles away when we moved into Knollwood. We had actually about 40 years ago had set up a base camp in Washington, knowing that our assignments in the military and the State Department and then the United Nations would take us in and out of Washington. And so it was good to have a place to come back to after assignments overseas and so forth. So that's made it a very easy and natural transition from our home in Bethesda, Maryland to Knollwood when we came in about 15 years ago.
Wonderful. And John, do you want to tell us how long you've been here and where you came from?
Well, I've been here for 1 year and about a week.
Happy
and,
anniversary.
and just love it. People always ask me how do I like it? I said, I don't like it, I love it, because I feel love is stronger than life. I'm originally from West Virginia, out of the coal fields, and, but I've been living in Washington DC for about 60 years, doing different things. Started a program of my own called Beacon House Community Ministry, which was in a rough neighborhood, and it ran for 30-some years. And just had a 30th anniversary on the 30th of last month. And doing real well, and everything is going very well.
I understand that one of the gentlemen who just moved in, you know him from way back.
Oh, yeah,
Which is
Dr.
crazy.
Trimble,
Yeah.
George Trimble.
Yeah, the veterinarian.
Oh,
Yeah, they knew
Yeah,
each
as
other.
a matter of fact, we met out at a fundraiser. They were gonna give me money and asked me to come to this meeting that night. And I went over, and that's where I met Dr. Trimble. He discovered me there. And he had animals that he would place in different programs around the city. And he put a lot of animals in the project that I was operating, and to introduce them to children and have them help them and do things like that.
Fantastic. Love that.
We're getting a lot of questions already, so I'm going to read off a couple. One of the questions from a viewer is, and each one of you can answer this question, or unless you don't, have an answer, but what tips would you give to someone that they must or should do when moving to Knollwood?
Well, I think the first thing is that you go through what you have in your home and start to declutter. And call appropriate agencies to pick up perhaps extra clothing. Call perhaps a library or booksellers about books. And doing things like that, I think, is the primary thing you should be doing.
Anyone else?
I would say planning ahead is critical, especially if you're downsizing, as Priscilla was just talking about. I found that my previous experiences in life, when I was moving a great deal, I would always find out where I was moving to and then do a detailed floor plan according to dimensions that were accurate. And the staff here that you're is bringing you this webinar was wonderful about making sure I had accurate measurements in all of the spaces. That allowed me to do a layout, do furniture, because when you're downsizing from something quite large or medium large to something, in my case, a 1-bedroom apartment, you just have to know what's going to fit and then make the hard choices as to what you're going to keep and what is going out the door.
Now, I have one thing to interject because I'm not sure who asked that question, but I think it's important for the listeners to know that except for large studio or very petite 1-bedroom apartments, you need to get on the waiting list for Knollwood a couple of years in advance.
Sure.
So I think that's something. This person asks, for someone new to Knollwood, what kind of opportunities are there to meet new people and do new things? Yeah.
I can comment because even as we speak, my sister is moving in. She appeared Friday and will actually move in for good tomorrow. So that I'm going through this rows of just exactly this, but there's so much to do, you don't know where to start. But let it be said that calendars and events are available. The neighbors are more than available to get settled in and up to speed with all things that happen. So that's pretty easy. Just give yourself time because it's so complex, so much going on that don't let yourself be overwhelmed.
Anybody else have any?
I think although most people come in to Knollwood to sort of sit back a little bit and relax, you don't have to relax completely because
Right.
this is kind of a resident self-management situation. We have a very capable management who takes care of the things that we don't want to worry about. But there is a residents association, which is very active. There are lots of committees. So you're not left out of anything that you would like to be involved in. And you can make a significant contribution in areas where you have some experience. And so I think that's a way to meet people with interest that you have. And it's a chance to keep your mind very active. I think this is an excellent social outreach and for wellness and mindfulness and all the things that go along with a comfortable retirement, but a very active retirement mentally. So we have really benefited from that aspect.
Are any of you on committees or on the board?
I've been.
Yes.
I did want to just to add a small addendum, which is, yes, the activities are marvelous and many to choose from. However, for those of us, including myself, who really love quiet time, I call it being in my hermit mode. It's very easy to do that as well.
Yes.
When I just feel like being by myself and doing whatever I'm doing, I don't leave the apartment. I have my own kitchen. I can cook for myself, or I could call down and order something from the bistro and then go pick it up. But I like cooking for myself. So I can just stay right where I am and not have a care in the world about anything.
Sounds peaceful.
I would have to say ditto to that. There are quiet times here and restful times.
What were some of the challenges you faced when moving to Knollwood?
Finding enough space for my junk.
Yeah.
That's one thing people need to understand. If you want to come here, start downsizing
Yes.
early and get rid of stuff that you don't need. It includes clothes.
Yes.
I don't wear ties and suits that much anymore, so Goodwill has made money off of me. But yeah, you need to get rid of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so, oh, go ahead, Sam.
I would say my biggest problem is my neighbors. They're so complicated in their interest and knowledge of the world,
Yeah.
so diverse. And remembering what they tell me, who told me what, who I told me what about keeping it all straight.
Yes.
Is
You need like a little cheat sheet or something.
A computer in your pocket.
First, I thought you were gonna complain about your across the hall neighbors.
That's us.
That's us.
That's us. That's sales and marketing.
You know, but like, we can afford.
Okay, so this is for everybody. Someone who doesn't live in the area wanted to know, what do you like best about living in Washington, DC? What are some pros about living right here in the city?
I think speaking for myself, it's where we have spent so much of our official life.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just in the military, but also in the State Department. And my United Nations work was really an extension of the State Department, although we're in New York a lot of the time at UN headquarters, but permanently in Geneva with the Office of the High Commissioner for Refugees. So it's a tremendous variety. And this was the perfect location for that. It's where the action is, and it's where it's remained for us. I've stayed on some boards that were related to the United Nations or to the State Department, and of course meetings and activities connected with foreign affairs have been possible even through the pandemic, through Zoom. It's been a very active time during the pandemic, and the pandemic has been a challenge to some extent, but a special shout out to the management at Knollwood for the tremendous their success in bringing us through safely through the pandemic. This was a huge achievement.
So anybody else want to say what it is for somebody who doesn't live in DC now, who's looking for things? What do you like best about living at Knollwood in DC?
Yeah.
Well, I like the fact that we're right on Rock Creek Park. It's such a lovely place to go walking. And although I do like walking through the neighborhoods too. But the location is, you don't necessarily feel that you're in a big city. You can get that, not just privacy, but that alone time that you'd like to have. And then the other piece of it, of course, has to be the cultural attractions, seeing the different presentations at the art museum. I'm an opera lover. I've been to the opera more than once in the last few months and enjoyed it tremendously. So I think there's just such a wide variety of choices, including just enjoying nature.
So this says for all participants with adult children, did you tell them about Knollwood before or after your decision to move, and what was their response? Sounds like somebody might be watching that has kids.
We told our daughter and her husband before we moved into Knollwood, and they were overjoyed, really. At the time that we moved into Knollwood, they were moving to Bermuda for a few years, and so it was very convenient for them to have us here. And I remember that my parents were in the facility, and it was a great help to us because we could go overseas and know that they were being taken care of and so forth. Gives you great peace of mind, I think.
If anything, my children were cheerleaders for the whole concept, and they used to pressure me constantly. When are you putting the house on the market? When are you moving? And they love the idea that it was a continuing care facility. But also they wanted me to be closer. And this was something even my husband in the last years of his illness was very much in favor of going in this direction. And because he hated the thought that he was going to be leaving me alone.
Let's see. What is your favorite thing to do away from Knollwood? Anyone?
For the Dewey family, it's been travel because we came in early enough so our health was stable and well enough to enjoy things outside of Knollwood. In fact, after 15 years, we're just starting to look at some of the programs that are going on in Knollwood. Finding out there's an awful lot going on right here. But for example, we made a final cruise just before the pandemic hit. And this was a Cunard Queen Victoria cruise around South America, all the way around South America. A 55-day cruise, which as we went up the western side of South America, we had increasing difficulty in getting into ports because they saw the rise of the pandemic. And then we just got under the line getting into Fort Lauderdale to complete the cruise. And in fact, the ship behind us wasn't allowed in, so the timing was fantastic.
Wow.
And so that was a big part of our activities outside of Knollwood. In the first few years after we came in, we took repeated cruises and took a lot of photos. And this was also a benefit to people at Knollwood who maybe were a little bit too old to do that much cruising or traveling, and they appreciated the vicarious experience of the travels that we were on. So we would make presentations of our trips after we returned to Knollwood.
But for people who haven't been to Washington, D.C., it's a lot of history here, a lot of museums and things that you can go to and enjoy. And I love doing that, you know, I love going to different places, learning about what has happened here, what has grown up here and everything. You know,
And not to interrupt, John, but what's one of the best things about going down to the mall and looking at the museums? Is it really expensive?
oh, no, it's not expensive.
It's not expensive.
It's
Most
free.
of them are
That's right,
free.
that's right, a lot of them are free. Yeah.
Yes.
Not just going in, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's lovely.
Well, one thing that is very convenient is that you can have a car or 2 cars here. Your parking space is near your apartment. And this is very convenient for everything.
And I think too, unlike a lot of apartments in the city charge when you have a car. And here, there's not an extra charge.
Yeah.
And a lot of places, if you have a visitor with the car, they may have to either pay for parking or move their car frequently, where at Knollwood, there is visitor parking that's also complimentary.
Yes.
We haven't mentioned is there are buses from here that take us various places, not only shopping, but to cultural, historical, and other things, which I love. Among the things that are open to us, not only intellectual instances,
Yes.
but my stomach, I love to eat.
Yes.
There are wonderful restaurants nearby that I love.
Actually, that's a question someone asked. Any restaurant
Oh,
recommendations?
boy.
Lots.
Just when they get here, call on me.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, yeah, I've only been in DC myself a little over 2 years and I've enjoyed sampling around. Yeah, yeah. Candy, anything you would like to add?
Well, I agree with everything I've heard, and most of my major traveling will be in the future because I've taken on some responsibility with being so close to 3 of my young granddaughters. For the first time ever, I was never close enough to see them more than a couple of times a year. And especially with the youngest, who's 5, I have developed one-on-one time that I wouldn't trade for any round the world cruise. I mean, it's something that you have to get them at the right age, because you know, once they get to be 8, 9, 10, 11 and older, all of a sudden it's hi grandma, bye grandma, and they're gone. So I have to say my 2 to 3 times a week, picking up my youngest granddaughter at pre-K and spending the afternoon with her has just been one of the most marvelous experiences of my life.
What a blessing.
But even the older grandchildren love Knollwood.
Yeah.
They come in, I think that there is something about Knollwood and the residents, Bridgeton and so forth. Just the other day, 2 little girls, grandchildren of residents here, came to my house for tea, cranberry juice. We had a wonderful time. They chatted away and it was a lovely experience for me, and I think they enjoyed it as much as I did.
I've even seen
I
some
love
of the grandchildren and nieces and nephews at some of the lectures and musical performances here.
Oh, yeah, Knollwood is a welcoming place and children love it. I saw some grandparents the other day, they had little children, you know, about 4 or 5. I said, they're gonna try to get a place here as soon as they can. So when they get of age, they'll have a place to come, because they love it here. They love coming.
Is it convenient for family to visit you at Knollwood, and does Knollwood have guest rooms?
Yes, to both.
Easy
In fact,
peasy.
I have a guest room right across the hall from me, so
Yeah.
it's very convenient to have company, and in most cases, when my three of my grandchildren are visiting, they don't even sign in, they just get waved right in,
No.
and it's and they love coming here as well.
I had a friend who had to do something in the city, and I got a room for him here in Knollwood, you know, so he had a place to stay and he could have good food and stuff while he was here. And
Oh.
he was here for two days.
It's nice.
So guests can stay with you or in the guest rooms.
Right, yeah.
And you mentioned dining in, and I think one of the
Yes.
questions was about dining in. Anybody want to talk about dining here? How often do you dine here? For our viewers, it probably is important to know that Knollwood doesn't require people to dine here.
Yes, there's no dining plan that you have to buy into or a certain amount of money each month that you have to spend on dining. It's all pay as you go. But tell us a little bit about all of your experiences at the dining room. Do some of you eat there most of your meals or?
I know someone who gets coffee a lot there.
Well, I do too, and you don't have to worry about cooking. All you have to do is be here. I mean, I can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner down at the Bristol. And to me, that's big time. That's big time. I don't have to work dishes, don't have to go to the Giant and Safeway and shopping. I go down and get my food and that's it.
That's
If
it.
I'm on other food, the restaurants around the area, I can go there sometimes and fill in.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I go down to breakfast every morning.
yeah.
And I have a very good nourishing breakfast.
Okay.
There's a variety. It's also dine in the dining room or the bistro, maybe a couple times a week.
Excellent.
You mentioned breakfast every day. Would you share with people how much does breakfast cost you and what do you usually have for breakfast?
Well, it's very inexpensive and they will do just what you ask them to do. For example, if you want one scrambled egg, they'll give you one scrambled egg. If you want 2 pieces of toast, they'll give you 2 pieces of toast. Very inexpensive compared to outside. Coffee is free. The first cup of coffee is free. Variety of tea. Just, I think it's about $2.10. A breakfast that would cost you $7 or $8 on the outside is about $2.10 here.
Absolutely. Go ahead,
So,
Sam.
just the opposite. I cook for myself and I'm learning to cook better because my wife is a gourmet chef. But what's nice about the bistro is always there. You can always sit down, get a sandwich or whatever. And if you want a social occasion, particularly when we have a special event like Easter or Mardi Gras, they'll put on a special meal and the social friendship table for newcomers. That's always.
What about during the summer? Are there any special dining options during the summer?
What was your question, Helen?
What about dining during the summer? Do we do anything special during the summer? Like maybe
Absolutely.
here at Knoll House where we're at right now?
Yes.
Do you guys want to tell our audience about what they do in the summer right
Well,
here?
we have lovely evening meals on the patio at Knoll House. The chef cooks the meal in front of you. It's a wonderful experience and you make a reservation. It costs just a tiny bit more than the regular meal.
Yeah.
Over to Knoll House and sit in the evening and watch the sunset. So it's a very nice experience.
Yeah, it's kind of fine dining al fresco, right?
Yes, yeah, and what's nice is that, well, maybe I'll pick up the laptop in a little bit and have the viewers look at the view. But the veranda that Priscilla is sharing about the summer dining in spring and fall overlooks Rock Creek Park.
Yes.
So Knollwood is on a giant hill that's known for grandchildren sledding
Yep. And
when
that's
there is snow.
where it gets its name from.
Yes.
Knoll, the Knoll.
Yep.
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 Mhm.
And it's just beautiful. If you actually drive by an Oregon Avenue in the summer and sometimes you'll see the umbrellas open at the dining tables. That's the back veranda. But right now, if you drove by, I think the only thing you'd see would be blossoming cherry, dogwood, pear, azalea. It's pretty amazing out there.
I think we also should mention the specialty dinners
Yeah.
that is certainly associated with various holidays.
Yep.
Usually you have to make a reservation for those, but I don't know that anyone's ever been turned away. But it's a lovely presentation and the food is quite good. And I do want to add one more comment about breakfast. I
Okay.
was astonished at how much, I mean, if you go during the long period of time, 7:30 to 11.
Yeah.
You could almost have brunch. In the sense that if you were a late riser, you could go down and have breakfast. And this is what you get with the standard breakfast. You know, certainly they will customize it for you, but a standard breakfast was bacon or sausage. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me start with the cereal. Hot or cold cereal.
Okay.
And then 2 eggs cooked any way you wish, bacon and or sausage, toast, and home fries. All for something like $2.50. So it is not only just a bargain, but you could make it into a brunch and then have an early dinner, for example. And because many people like to eat earlier in the day, but it is very nice to have a regular evening dinner, especially when it's out of doors or it's a specialty occasion.
I think for us, my husband and myself, we like to eat at different times. My husband is often out in the city and it gives us flexibility. And so we enjoy the flexibility of the dining hours.
Excellent. That's fantastic.
I think another feature of dining is the wait staff of our contractor, the Sodexo is the contractor. And where there is a problem with employment, getting good employees and so forth, almost everywhere in the United States today. The wait staff are so great, they're so professional, they're so congenial, and they know and really like the residents, and certainly the residents like them. And I think that makes them sort of the Knollwood family.
They're part of the family.
They're not looking for employment outside, and so it's a fairly stable group. And we have the same thing, not quite the same stability on the kitchen staff, the chefs, but enough stability that we have some very good chefs. And so it's a real good feature of Knollwood. And the residents have a voice in the dining. They can tell what they want and what they don't want, and there's communication which I think is healthy in keeping the quality and the standards up on food.
Absolutely.
And is anybody able to talk to some of the committees that are here at Knollwood? Would that be you, maybe Jean? I don't know.
There are really what we call the standing committees. The major committees are the House Committee, which looks after matters or gives the resident input to matters about how the main hall of Knollwood is operated. There's the Health Committee, Health Services Committee, which is very active. We have medical personnel like Sam here at my left, who's one of our several medical doctors at Knollwood. And so we have really a strong professional input on the Health Committee. There's the Dining Committee, which is the third of the House committees, which is very active. You have quite a variety of opinions on dining, as you can imagine. I was chair of the Dining Committee at one time. We had about 12 people on it. We always had about 15 different opinions on the subject. So you know how that is like.
Yes.
And then the fourth committee is Buildings and Grounds. And these are extraordinary grounds around Knollwood. For those who come in, early on, you'll come to appreciate the trees. Every tree has its label on it. We know who they are, or the experts know who they are. And the grounds are well kept. And Candy mentioned we're right along Rockford Park. our early years, I was walking every day, probably for a couple of miles in Rock Creek Park. Excellent trails, well-maintained trails. And so that's a special treat. Those are the 4 committees. They're very active. We originally had, and may go back hopefully soon, to the board for Knollwood, the Army Distaff Foundation board, had board members on each of those 4 house committees. So the board of directors for Knollwood got to know the residents. And so that communication is very useful, and I hope that that can come back now that we're through the pandemic and people are meeting together again, getting together socially with members of the board and having a chance for idea input to the board and vice versa. I think that's something to look forward to.
And there is also a resident on the board of directors. Is that correct?
Yes, the president of the Knollwood Residents Association is by statute, by DC law, a member of the Army Distaff Foundation board.
Excellent. So the residents really do have a voice.
Yes.
That's important.
And then the next question is, can residents use the public spaces at Knollwood for personal events? Has anyone ever had any?
Any
Use
kind of
of-
big event here?
Yes, we had a buffet for, excuse me. We had some renovations done in our apartment. And we had a buffet afterwards for all that had worked on the apartment. And so there were about, I think 30 people who had worked on the apartment. We had a wonderful time. And, you can-
Helen will remember that because
Yes.
she brought us through that period very successfully and professionally, and we
Yes.
appreciate it, Helen.
Yes,
Great job, and it was just a chance to give a small thank you to so many people who helped in that transition from one apartment to another.
people had birthday parties at Knoll House. They have anniversary parties here. Lots of events can take place at various areas, either in the main building or in Knoll House. So,
Well, should you mention too, that there are many things that residents organize for themselves, and there's plenty of spaces to do that. There are bridge clubs and mahjong clubs and movie clubs and French clubs and Italian clubs,
Happy hour.
happy hours, we do in our own.
Amen.
Lots of spaces to do that.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Now, we'll give the viewers an opportunity if they want to type in any last questions. But is there any words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we close out today's program?
Well, just listening to the commentary from my co-group here. The word family was used a great deal about how it not only among residents, but staff, you feel like you're part of a family. And I think that goes right along with that initial reaction I had to Knollwood when I visited, that put it to the top of my priority list. And that was the sense that you didn't feel you were moving into an institution. You felt a sense of intimacy. You felt that you were valued for not just coming to live there, but that we all have histories that we can share with one another. And I do think that sense of individual appreciation is something that was just in the atmosphere here that I picked up on very early. And that is what propelled Knollwood to the #1 spot on my list.
I would add that Knollwood has become a very diverse community. Although it started out for widows, military widows, and then military-related persons, now has expanded to DC-related persons, people who have been in government or in commercial activities in DC and so forth are now eligible to come to Knollwood, and so the meetings and the committees reflect that. We have a men's group, which is a very active group because it includes a lot of different professions. It has doctors like Senator Collette here. It has
Lawyers.
myself and
Journalists.
journalists. We have a wide variety. So when you talk about current affairs, what's happening in Ukraine today and so forth, you can cover it from a lot of different dimensions. The humanitarian dimension, of course, which is a huge part of what's happening in Ukraine. Political, military dimension and so forth. There's somebody at Knollwood who can contribute to each of those sectors about what's happening in the world of the nights today. So that's a huge improvement over the early days where it was mostly military. And sometimes people thought, well, the conversations tend to be all military. Now it's a major expansion, much more interesting, I think, and a much richer atmosphere.
Amen to that.
Yes, excellent. Fantastic.
Well, so now what we'll do is we will kind of let our, well, first of all, thank you all for being here.
Yes.
The residents who are part of today were asked, not told, because of course we work for you. So basically you can tell us what to do, but so we thank you for your participation. To the viewers, this will be recorded, so if there's anybody you want to share it with, and for those that are still watching, I think we're gonna put up another slide, but I wanted to just show people, I'm gonna actually take this and take people outside. Oh no, you know what, I can't, because I can't take the.
Next
Oh, I
time.
can, no, I can. I
Okay.
can disconnect.
All right, so we're
Wait a
gonna
minute.
just,
I'm gonna just show
Hang
you
on,
the view
viewers.
from the veranda.
yep, hang on, viewers, we're just
And Jess is
unplugging a
gonna-
couple things. Okay, so Carol Ann can take you around.
And somebody can open the door. So we're in the Knoll house. So this is our, basically our historic house that was the original house or for which we built the property. But when you're outside dining, this is the view that you're gonna have. And I don't know if you can see that very little side street down there. It doesn't get much traffic, but that is the small neighborhood street that you would cross if you were gonna go to Rock Creek Park. So it's right across the street. And that is the view that you have when you're dining outside at Knollwood. And there's Heidi. Many of you may know Heidi.
Chipmunk running around.
Oh, we like chipmunks. And now we're coming back into our little TV screen room. Thank you, everybody, and we hope to see you again. So please come and visit us in person. We do that by appointment. So give us a call or look at our website, knollwoodcommunity.org.